Go.
Cottman, Crawford, and the Jersey Guy podcast.
Hey everybody, Kenny Cottman.
Lewis Crawford.
And I'm Tom Ramage, the Jersey Guy. Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Not much. What's going on, man? How are you?
Not much.
Hello there.
Hey, we have my wife Tanya with us tonight. You know, we had a guest on the first show. Now we have another guest, and it's my wife Tanya.
Yeah.
Hi, honey.
Hello there.
So,
Love you.
Kenny's still away because we record 2 episodes in one night, so it's still the same night. So Kenny's still away. So.
Yes, but he will be back for the next 2. So, we miss you, Kenny.
We'll penalize him when he gets back.
Yeah, we'll take care of it. We'll figure it out. So what do you got, man? What's going on? How are you guys doing, by the way?
Doing
Everything
great.
Good. Yeah,
Doing great.
From the last 45 minutes ago that we talked. I wanted to see how you guys are still doing.
Yeah, we're doing that.
Anyway, you're going to be doing the ADHD tonight.
I am going to be talking about ADHD.
And I'm sure we'll wind up bleeding into everything else that falls in that, on that list.
Yeah, and because of ADHD, I did not prep this episode.
Of course.
At all.
That's perfect. Then it's good for the episode then.
because that's executive dysfunction, which we will get into.
Right. And I say you just go with it then.
Okay, so we're going to talk about ADHD. So I'm going to talk about it from my perspective. I just want to say that I am not an expert. I am not a psychiatrist. I'm just going from my own experiences and from what I know about myself and what I've learned about ADHD. Because it's funny because when I was younger, all they would tell me about ADHD is like, oh, you have, they didn't even say ADHD, and I was just ADD then. They're like, oh, you have ADD, and, it's going to be hard for you to pay attention in class and studying. And that's all they told me about it. I was like, okay. And then, and I really never understood it. And, I actually talked myself out of having ADHD. Like, I don't have ADHD. That's bullshit. I told my, when I got into my young adult life, and for the longest time, I didn't even think I had it because I kind of talked myself out of it. Like, oh, I don't have it's bullshit. I don't know what I'm talking about. And then for a while, I started learning stuff about ADHD, and I started learning stuff about autism too. And it's funny because there's a lot of traits of autism and ADHD. I'm like, maybe I'm mildly autistic, but no, it's ADHD. I was like, maybe they misdiagnosed me.
Right.
But no,
maybe you have a slight.
There's just a lot of overlapping things.
Right.
Between autism and ADHD, but they're completely different, obviously.
Right.
But so, and some people have actually, a lot of people with autism also have ADHD.
I was just going to ask you, is it possible for them to have that as well, even though they have the autism going on? And that makes sense too, because they're very, when it comes to certain things, like with your nephew, when he's doing the phone and he's got the recordings going on, it's right back. He's, it's
that seems
it's a repetitive,
more to me OCD tendencies. But
you think so? More OCD?
When you're diagnosed with autism, they always talk about being on the spectrum, and that spectrum contains a lot of different aspects of autism.
Right.
Yeah.
ADHD being one of them, I would assume, as well as OCD being one of them.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
So, but I guess I'll just give whatever the textbook definition of ADHD is. It's marked by an ongoing pattern of inattention and or hyperactive impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development. So it's kind of like a broad definition.
Basically, in short, you're fucked up.
Yeah.
So what's can I ask this question?
Yeah.
What is the acronym? What does each of the letters stand for?
Attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Hyperactive.
But they added hyperactive later on because when I was a kid, it was always ADD. Attention deficit disorder. But they added hyperactive. But then it's funny because I was never hyperactive. So you have attention deficit hyperactive disorder inattentive. So it's very confusing, but yeah.
Does that remove the hyperactive part?
I think so. But you know what the thing is? So hyperactivity doesn't necessarily mean
bouncing off of the walls.
Yeah, like
Right.
your mind is hyperactive.
Right.
Like
It's not. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical. Or, like running around.
It's like there's like a lot of shit going on at one time. You know, and it's
your brain is hyperactive.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I have, and when you learn certain things like internal monologue, I was told that like not everybody has the internal monologue going on all the time, and like my internal monologue is going all the time.
Right.
It never stops. Yeah.
So, I think you and I'm definitely the same way.
Yeah, you might. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they really didn't start diagnosing people like in the 80s, and you were already a young adult in the 80s. So maybe you just never got a chance to get diagnosed.
Well, the funny thing is that, like I said earlier, I was on, when we were talking about it off air.
Yeah.
I was in special ed.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
But they thought it was a learning disability, and it turned out later on.
Well, it is a learning disability,
right? But they thought it was something else, like that I didn't know how to read, or I wasn't comprehending what I was learning, or they couldn't figure it out. So I went for all kinds of tests, and I was in special ed and everything all like that. Wound up that wasn't the case. I found out later on. A friend of mine's mom, who was close to my mom, they were really good friends, and they worked at my school at the time. And she said, if you had that now, it would be ADHD. That's what you had. She goes, then they didn't know what it was, so they couldn't diagnose it. Yeah. They had no idea. So then it made sense.
Yeah.
As soon as she said it, I'm like, oh, okay. All right, that's good.
I feel with me though, I have it worse than other people because it happens. How many times like, Tom, do you hear what I just said? I'm like, no.
I was like, Tom, are you asking me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, pay attention. I have to like snap him out of it.
Pay attention. Sorry. But so what actually is going on in the brain is interesting, like on the biological level. So essentially ADHD is like a dopamine deficiency. So like typically, say you do like a project and you get like satisfaction out of it. Most people get satisfaction and they'll feel good for a long time, and their brains don't need to constantly do stuff. But like with someone with ADHD, the dopamine, like it's kind of like in a video game when the life bar depletes,
right?
Or like that life bar depletes for everybody just over time, and until they got to do something else to fill it back up. Well, with ADHD, it's like
it goes quick. You're like a hummingbird.
Like
you got to keep feeding yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to do something else. So you're constantly doing things. So like that's why like sometimes in your head, because the dopamine goes down, so your thoughts are running in your head because trying to keep yourself stimulated. That's
probably the way the brain protects itself.
Yeah, because you're otherwise you'd be depressed all the time.
Right. That makes sense.
Because you wouldn't be getting that. So you're constantly doing things to fill that dopamine deficiency, which actually we could talk on the next subject of it, which could talk onto hyperfocus or like interests, right? So what happens is for me, again, like I'm talking to myself, but I know it's very common with people with ADHD. Is like we find like these hobbies and we dive deep into them, like I was making kombucha. Remember, I was like so into it.
Right, you had the bottles.
I was fucking doing continuous brew. I got the book on. I was studying. I knew everything about it, and then I stopped making kombucha because I got bored with it. And I moved on to something else. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, finish.
And it's always like something else. I'm into this. I'm into that. I'm into this. I'm into that. And then it's kind of like so. It's been that way my whole life. It's like, how come you're really into this? And then
all of a sudden he stops.
Yeah.
Like out of the blue. Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I can't say that about you though, babe. I can't say that about you because you have so many things that you do, but it's not like you have to get something different. I mean, you do learn new stuff, which you do all the time, like, which is great. And you pick it up, you have your cricket and you do,
It's funny, we're sitting here having the discussion and I'm trying to think of, do I have ADHD tendencies? And I guess the first thing that comes to mind of where I can say that, yes, I do have some ADHD tendencies. It might sound crazy or sexist, but it's like doing the housewife clean the house thing.
Right.
I can't clean one room and be done with it.
You have to do the whole house.
I'm folding laundry in the laundry room, go wipe down the kitchen counter, go vacuum the floors, all over the place. And I don't know if that's truly a touch of ADHD or just?
I think that's the way I would. I don't know. I would probably clean. That's kind of how I am. I can't stay
focused on just like, okay, today we're going to clean the bathroom and do that from A to Z.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. So maybe there's a touch of it.
Yeah.
But I think that everybody probably has a little bit of.
Well, I mean, we all kind of
is all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has a little bit of that, but not like on like a level where it's like a disorder. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, question for you: How is it actually diagnosed? How do they?
That's a good question. I was a kid. I don't really remember how they diagnosed it. I know you usually see I'm assuming, it's always when kids start going to school, the teachers kind of pick up on it, and then they have the child study team, which is like usually the psychologist, and then they kind of refer them to parents, and the parents kind of go see a specialist about it, and they go about it that way. I remember being a kid, but I remember seeing like someone about it, but I don't really remember.
And I would imagine it's just like how long is it that you can focus on one thing, or in having a conversation, how many different
I really don't remember. It's so long
ways
ago.
Do you go?
Yeah, it was so long ago.
Very interesting.
But and one of the other and again, like this is what I started the show with. Like how I like waited till last minute or never didn't prep. So executive dysfunction is actually a very common trait with ADHD. So like here's the definition of executive dysfunction. So executive dysfunction is a behavioral symptom that disrupts a person's ability to manage their own thoughts, emotions, and actions. It's most common with certain mental health conditions, especially addictions, behavioral disorders, brain development disorders, and mood disorders. So, so basically it's like the best way to describe it is like, being told as a kid all the time, or even as an adult, it's like, I gave you one job to do and you didn't do, you did everything else. It's like,
but that one thing you just kind of like went around it.
It's like go and study, and I look and study, and I go, fuck this, and I start doing other things. Well, let me listen to some music. Maybe that'll get me. Maybe I'll do that. And it's like 4 hours passed by, and I hadn't done what I was supposed to do. So it's very common. Yeah. So that's a very common trait.
Wow.
So do you think that people that have ADHD, or maybe I'm asking you directly, do you find it limiting you in any way?
Oh,
like
definitely.
Start with work.
Yeah. Oh, with work. So yeah, that's the thing too. Like, like sometimes like I have to order stuff, and I kind of keep forgetting to order it, and and then 2 weeks go by, and I should have ordered that. Like work, I was supposed to order these drain locks, and I was like work. I went to the store and I called, and they were like, "Oh, you got to get back measurements," and I was like, "Oh, okay," and then I like totally forgot to do it. And forgetting stuff is another common thing. Just because there's like so many different things going on in your brain, it's very easy to forget things. So that kind of affects it too.
So have you developed like tools for yourself of like, I really should, whether it's write it down or make a memo to myself, or like tools to deal with it?
Yeah. So like, my best thing, I think the best thing is, so it's funny because people be like, oh, you should just get a planner, but like you have to remember to write things in the planner. You have to remember to take this planner with you. Smartphones, I think, are the best because I could just write like a million reminders and they just go off my phone like ding, 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 ding. Don't remember to do this, ding, ding. So like I'll constantly set reminders for myself to do things. It's the only way because I'll just forget.
And that works for you, obviously, because you're with me a lot of the times, and I see that when he does have everything pretty much set up for lunch, everything, whatever it might be during the course of the day. Yeah.
That's good.
Especially because they, with our job, they give us like, oh, you have to take lunch between this amount of time. So I set a reminder at this time to take lunch so it's that, but that, it's, the funny thing is like, it's kind of like, again, like ADHD, I don't want to say it's like autism where there's a spectrum, but like certain things will work for certain people and certain things won't work for other people.
Sure.
So
right. Yeah, and everybody's different, and that's the whole thing. It's going to affect everybody differently.
So you just find what works for you.
Right. Exactly.
And the best thing to do is really, if you have ADHD, is like join a Facebook group or something like that, like one of those support groups, because you can get tips and stuff from other people too. And what works for them.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I joined a bunch of groups and you learn stuff. You're like, oh, that's what that is.
That's excellent advice.
Yeah. Yeah, and another trait of ADHD, and this is the one I kind of struggle with now, especially because I'm really hyper aware of it, is RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Yeah, no.
What does that mean?
So rejections, I should probably pull that up, but whatever. But that's like kind of like you're constantly like kind of seeking approval from people because you think people are not going to like you, and you're always this like constant fear of rejection, or like, and a lot of times I'll like meet people and like I'll be like, I don't think they like me, and I have no reason to say that, but it's just like
But that's what you're picking up for some reason, but it's not anything that they're doing. It's what's going on with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Or a fear of like, if I got to meet new people. And actually, I've never told this story, so this is a good one. So when you first started, they told me I was going to be training this guy. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to train this guy. And what's if he's like, I'm like thinking the worst case scenario. I'm like, what's this guy's an asshole? What's if he's like,
right? I would have been the same way.
And the same thing, like because I'm like vegan, it's like, oh, what's if he's like one of these like crazy like people who are like, oh, fuck vegans,
right?
I'm gonna eat a steak in front of you. Like I'm like thinking all these worst case scenarios of my friends. Like, what's if like he's a really nice guy and you end up like being good friends? And I was like, oh, which is funny because now we're good friends.
Now we're good friends. Yeah. and it wasn't like that at all, right?
No,
I was more intrigued with that stuff when you would talk about it.
But I just think of the worst case scenario, and that's a very common trait with people with ADHD. Is like just thinking these worst case scenarios and like fucking, and like.
Do you do that at all, honey?
No, I'm just chuckling at the story itself because the reason that you probably did hit it off is because you have many common things like ADHD.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know what it is, but there's something about him I like. Now we know, squirrel. Exactly.
And and like I even and now that I'm more aware of it, I know. Like I'm trying to. I have to like. It's like that thing that you told me. Like when you like you're paranoid because you smoke weed. Like, dude, I just smoke weed. So like every time like this person's like, dude, it's RSD. That's what I tell myself, dude. Right. It's RSD. It's RSD. Stop, Tom. Like, and it's like even with like Chase Wood is like, when he started T-ball last year, I'm like not talking to a lot of parents, and I was like, oh, and I'm like, I don't want to make any friends. But like that's just me being defensive,
right?
You know what I mean? Because I'm already like, they're not gonna like me. So like I'm like, I'm not gonna make any friends with the parents. Fuck that, But I got over that.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
really. I think we all do that though, a little bit. I mean, like
it's really bad.
You don't know how a person's gonna be, so you're already perceiving the worst or whatever. But I guess that's common. No, I mean to some extent, but I guess you can be more enhanced in your situation because it's it's like the first thing that comes up. You're right. You're there already. You're on the line. You're like, okay, well, who's this person going to be? I don't know if we're this, that, the other. You're already going through all the negative scenarios in your head.
Mine actually got worse after I went vegan.
That's interesting.
Because I think it's more projection because the way I was before, I used to like make fun of vegans all the time and like feel like he's fucking.
So it's karma.
I think that's projection. I'm like, oh, everybody's thinking the way I was.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, listen, it's almost like being being a smoker. I used to smoke cigarettes, and now I'm a non-smoker. An ex-smoker, I should say.
End of the spectrum.
And now I can't stand it. I don't want to be around it. I don't like the smell. It stinks. It's horrible. And I was that person. So in some idea, I guess that's kind of the same thing in a way,
So, but so it's just the whole thing is it's always interesting, and also that's another thing is hyper. So the thing with ADHD is you get the opposite now. So there's the thing like hyper focus. It's almost like people. It's funny because like people in the Facebook groups, they're like, it's the superpower of ADHD is hyper focus because you actually get the opposite when you do focus on something. Like, holy shit, 4 hours just passed by. What the fuck was I doing? Because you can hyper focus on something, and that's also
you were zoned in.
Because you're getting that you found something that's giving you your brain, and it's not conscious. It's your brain like, oh, something gave my dopamine supply, and then you start hyper focusing on something. And that's another thing that people understand is video games are very, very, very addicting for people with ADHD because it's constant dopamine supply because you have all these little rewards. Like you finish a level, you get a reward. They play music and sound, and
okay, what's
it
next?
gives you that dopamine stimulate, and then all of a sudden, get to the next level, and it's harder and it's challenging, and you get these power ups, and you can upgrade the outfit the guy's wearing. It gives them more power, and it's just all these upgrades are constantly giving these dopamine rushes. So like, and like I said, it's very animated music, and it's constantly stimulating your brain, and so that's so I had a severe video game addiction too when I was younger and that's probably because
I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see that.
I'm playing video games for hours and hours until I finally snapped out of it and sold my video game system. But now it's funny, my son's playing like video games on the tablet, and like I'm downloading video games, we're playing them together, and like I'm so we're doing the same thing. I'm like, but I had to tell myself like after a while, like I don't put it down because I got this one game.
Well, at least you're aware of it though. I mean, that's a good thing.
It's like one game. It's such a stupid game. It's like you have a restaurant and you just got to keep upgrading things and constantly, and the customers come in and it's.
Is that like
it's more therapeutic for you?
I couldn't stop putting it down. Yeah, but like I couldn't put it down. I was like, Tara's like, you're gonna. I'm just 10 more minutes. Let me finish this.
You're
like,
hyper focused.
Yeah, you're super hyper focused. Yeah, no doubt.
So, I was just reading up on. You mentioned before a comment of the superpower or hero. What did you say about
superpower? It's like a superpower. People call it a superpower
because you're hyper focused.
Yeah. So being hyper focused is a superpower, and it kind of comes in play with what I was reading, just looking up things about ADHD and being out in the work field with ADHD, adults, and that there are strengths that come from people with ADHD, but if they're in the right type of employment. So there's a list here of the types of jobs that are best for someone with ADHD.
Let me guess.
That's right.
So,
Come on.
So the list is a musician, an artist, a dancer, a computer support technician, computer or IT network administrator, entertainer, inventor, teacher, hairstylist, construction worker.
Okay.
There it is. Yeah. There it is. Right. Or artisan builder, mechanic.
Right.
Yeah, mechanic, technician. Yep. Got it.
Private investigator, graphic designer, interior designer, and advertising and marketing professional.
So the thing is with all those jobs that kind of similar have in common is you have small tasks you have to complete. So like with our job with maintenance, right? You have a work that has to be done, right? And you have to figure it out. Sometimes you got to use your brain and figure a different way to do it, and so that's constantly
because you're juggling. All right, see, depends on the
on the job,
the priority of the job, right? And then which one's going to be first, and and how long is it going to take, and you go and look if you need material, then you got to order it, and so you go to the next one, and you're like, it's definitely an organizational. For me, I think I'm very I don't know what's the right word to say, but I'm very
that you definitely have the hyper focus.
Yeah, I'm super hyper focused. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm looking, for me it's more about banging it out. I want to get it done. Like I have to force myself to sit back and allow it to take its time rather than trying to just get it done and get it, finished. For me it's like, well, I could do this right now. I don't have to order it. Boom, fix it. You know what I mean? Now, some things I do that on for a reason because you want to get caught up on stuff, but it's just my personality, how I am when it comes to that stuff. It's weird. Yeah.
Interesting. A lot of the things that were listed on here had to do with musicians, arts, and
they have creativity. Yeah.
The creative part of the brain, right?
Yeah. And it's
right.
And even for like artists and musicians, everything's a project, creating a song is a project,
right.
Creating art is a project, and then they get to go on to the next thing. You know what I mean? So it's constantly,
And do you find that with any tasks, I guess whether it's work or personal, the I guess starting the task and then finishing the task, that reward is what.
And also the other thing is too, like finishing tasks is sometimes it's difficult to actually finish a task. Once the main part done, and then there's a couple finishing things at the end, that finishing things at the end tend to not always get done. Like I'll give an example. We when we first moved into our house, very strange. I don't know why, but our laundry room was in our garage. We have an attached garage, right? It's in the part of the house, and the laundry room was in the back of the garage. I don't know why. They never bothered, but because our sewer line is above grade, it's not above grade, but it's not below our basement. You know what I mean? So they never bothered to put like a pump in for the laundry. So like I had to, me and my stepfather kind of worked on it together. I sheetrocked the room and we put a pump for the laundry where like it's like a pump for the sink, right? It pumps the water up. But I did everything, and the last thing I had to do was put base molding up. There's still no base molding up in the laundry room. And
I'm the same
going
way.
back like 6 years ago.
I do the same
It's
thing.
that last thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's good enough.
Either I follow all the way through, or I do that.
95%
It's one at a time.
completed.
It's one, right? Yeah. I'm
That's
guilty.
funny.
Guilty as charged. I cannot.
And like,
However, the base molding doesn't contribute to the laundry room being functional.
yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
I can relate to that.
Right. Exactly. The machine works, right? Everything else is going good.
It's good.
It's
right?
only base molding.
All the important stuff is done.
Right. Exactly.
So, but that happens quite often. And another interesting thing too is so people in the ADHD like support community or like these, they say use the term object permanence, but it's really not object permanence. Object permanence is like you put say something in a cabinet, right? And if you have object impermanence or whatever, that means like you don't know it's in the cabinet. It's disappeared. That's not the case. We just forget about it because we're so busy. But stuff like I'll put stuff in the cabinet or a drawer and I forget that they're even there. And like it even work. Like I'll clean out my work van. I go, I had that. I went to go Home Depot to buy that and I completely forgot I had 2-inch deck screws or whatever, because it's put away and you forget about it. And that's
But I think that's common, though. I mean, I do the same thing.
I was just going to say you
might have ADHD though, so it
definitely
might
do that.
Yeah, but like, and it's some of these ADHD content creators are like, someone came up with this idea and it's a really genius idea. I've never followed through on it, probably because of executive dysfunction, but to reorganize for ADHD people to reorganize their refrigerator, because what happens, and this happens often in my house, because maybe Tara might too, I don't know, because she has a lot of the same issues I do, but you put stuff in the crisper drawer, I don't know how many times I go to the crisper drawer and there's like rotten vegetables or fruit in it, and all the time, and because I forget they're there. So they say, like the rearranger, they say put all your condiments in the crisper drawer because you'll never forget condiments because you only go for them
because
when
they'll
you
be in
need
there,
them.
right?
It's like ketchup. I'm having a hot dog. Okay, ketchup. Or burger. For a ketchup or a hot dog for mustard.
Right.
Or well, you can use
right. Whatever.
But anyway, and put your vegetables on the door.
Gotcha.
So you'll see them all the time and you won't forget about them.
Right. That makes sense.
That's smart.
Yeah. It's just rearranging things,
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That works for you, for sure.
And if you really wanted to, you could put labels on your cabinets, like what's in there, but that would look kind of
right.
But, yeah.
Well, don't they have these new the smart refrigerators
Yes, they
with
do.
that keep track of everything?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it even gives you shelf life on everything.
Do you know what's funny? I came up with that idea, that refrigerator, years ago. I was like, what if there's something called like a smart fridge where like you can scan things and as you put them in and then you'll have a computer screen and it'll tell you all the recipes you can make with them. And that exists.
Lou
I say
says
that
this
all the time.
Don't share my idea.
The same thing with luxury movie theaters. I had this.
I think we all did. With the
Tara had her business class. They had to come up with an idea for a business, and I helped her out with it. I was like, "What about luxury movie theaters? Like you have a full bar, you have food, and all of a sudden that shit, like 5 years later, that shit came. Not even 5 years later, like 3 or 4 years later, that shit came out. So yeah, but getting off topic.
No,
but yeah,
that's part of the whole conversation.
Yeah, it's actually
getting off topic.
It's going smoothly, actually.
Yeah. So and it's funny. A lot of the a lot of the studies on ADHD are mainly from children until more recent years now, because again, they didn't start really discovering ADHD until like the late 70s, early 80s, I guess. I'm guessing at that time. I could be wrong. I didn't bother to look up when, ADHD first started. They started like normally diagnosing where it was like a general diagnosis.
I have something here that I'm looking at. Actually, it says symptoms in children and teenagers. Symptoms of ADHD.
Yeah.
Children and teenagers are well defined, and they are usually noticeable before the age of 6.
Yeah.
They occur in more than one situation, such as at home and at school. Children may have symptoms of both inattentiveness and hyperactivity, impulsiveness, and they may have symptoms of just one of the types of behavior.
Impulsivity, that's another one.
Right.
That's another problem with ADHD. Very impulsive. So many times where I've bought things impulsively, and the best method I do now is I say, let me wait. Just wait. Like I'll be like, oh, I need to buy this and go on, like Amazon.
Right.
And then if I wait like a good 15 minutes, I'll realize, you know what? Do I really need that? Oh, no. You know what I mean? Just sometimes I get impulsive about stuff. And then sometimes I still get impulsive about stuff. But I think my last impulsive purchase. But I told Tara about it. And she's like, yeah, let's get that. I bought a squirrel feeder because we were feeding the birds. We bought the bird feeder. And then I saw the squirrels eating. So maybe that wasn't impulsive. No.
I think you were just trying to enjoy the nature too. I mean, we do that as well with the hummingbirds and everything like that. But it might be part of it too, because you're so focused in on it and you want to get done and set it up. And hyper-focus for sure.
So speaking about that, you were mentioning that a lot of the studies were with kids and everything. More of the stuff with the kids that I see or hear parents talking about is medicating these kids for such they call it disorders, don't they?
Yeah, it is a disorder. Attention deficit disorder.
Medicating them. So is the same thing happening with adults taking medication?
So a lot of adults, especially adults that didn't know they had ADHD, that got diagnosis and start taking different medications. I think Vivanase is one. Vivanase is a newer medication I've been hearing people take. When I was a kid, I tried Ritalin. It made me really nervous.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was really nervous.
Ritalin?
Yeah, Ritalin. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing: people take Ritalin to get high, but only if you don't have people I knew people who were I knew someone that was purposely not taking his Ritalin they were supposed to take, and he was selling it to people because people would chop it up and snort Ritalin. And
okay, what does it do for you? What kind of?
Well, if you don't have ADHD, it's kind of gives you speed, kind of a little bit. It's a stimulant,
right? Okay, all right.
But if you don't have ADHD, it'll be a stimulant. But
but if you have ADHD, it's supposed to help do the opposite.
Yeah, and caffeine, people with ADHD, caffeine really doesn't. I mean, it will wake you up a little bit, but it won't make you crazy hyper, It won't make you really, really hyper.
Right.
Not crazy. That's not a good word to use, but yeah, it will make you it won't make you really hyper. It'll actually make you focus more by drinking. If I have caffeine, I can actually focus.
Right.
So yeah. So, but
because you already have the one symptom of whatever it would give a person who doesn't have it, so then it's going to focus in on it, right?
So it's stimulant. That makes sense. Most of the ADHD medications are just stimulants. It's
that's
Ritalin.
What I was just going to ask. Is it always a stimulant?
Usually, I think some of the newer ones are different. So I tried Ritalin as a kid, but because it was a stimulant, it did give me not anxiety, but butterflies in my stomach all the time. Kind of feeling.
So it kind of gave you additional stuff other than whatever you had going on.
It didn't work out for me. And then I tried something else when I was a young adult, and it's funny. It had the weirdest side effect on me. It wasn't a debilitating side effect, but it was annoying. I had a cold nose all the time, like a dog. Not wet, just cold. My nose was always cold, and I just couldn't stand it. I don't know, something with circulation, so I stopped taking that. And then I never tried any other medication again.
That's really weird.
Yeah. Although cannabis seems to help me.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Indica helps me at night, because that's another thing too. And I mentioned it on when we were on the cannabis episode. At nighttime, I have trouble going to sleep. Because my mind is doing a million things at once, and I'm trying to lay in bed, and I'm I have music stuck in my head. I'm thinking of ideas. I'm thinking this. So like if I smoke indica at night, I'm fine. I can sleep better. I don't have any problem going to sleep. I go right to bed.
Right.
Fall asleep. I don't have any issues.
That's good. It's helping.
And my whole life, it would take me 45 minutes to an hour.
I would lay in bed and my mind will be going. Exactly. I'll get up and I'll take melatonin. I'm like, I got to take some because I can't sleep. Yeah. I got to go because my mind is just flying.
You probably have ADHD. You probably just weren't diagnosed because I don't know when
sure
they started.
I do.
I don't know when they started diagnosing people, but it's always kids. So a lot of the studies done are primarily children, but now because all those kids that were diagnosed with ADHD are now adults, so they can now they have more adult information to study on.
Right, to see what exactly, because we're those kids, and here we are now.
Exactly.
We're going through it. So, of course, I'm looking at some of the stuff like a hyperactivity and impulsivism, right? So it says being unable to sit still, especially in a calm or quiet surrounding, constantly fidgeting, being unable to concentrate on task, excessive physical movement, excessive talking, being unable to wait their turn, acting without thinking, interrupting conversations, little or no sense of danger. So that's a bunch of stuff under those two there. And it says related conditions of children and teenagers with ADHD, anxiety disorder, which causes your child to worry or be nervous much of the time. It may cause physical symptoms such as rapid heartbeat, sweating, and dizziness. Probably panic attacks too. I'm sure. Yeah. So it's amazing how that one thing, depends on what. It could be a number. The one thing I think with ADHD, it could either be one thing you're going through at that moment, or it could be multiple things that you're feeling at the same time. Yeah. Which I noticed too. You know what I mean? It's not just the one, but you're going through all the other stuff too. The things we just talked about and mentioned. So
exactly.
Yeah. So I definitely, I don't even think I need to be diagnosed. I'm sure I have it.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine. It's to me, I think it's been more.
The only reason you would need a diagnosis if you wanted to take medication.
I don't need to.
No. That's the only reason you would need an adult would need a diagnosis. Otherwise, you don't really need it. If you study it up and you really think all those things, you probably do have it. You know what I mean? Like you don't need the diagnosis unless you're looking for treatment. Other than that,
I think being older now and not being young or not understanding, but now you're older and now I do more things. I keep busy at work and we do stuff at home. I have my own stuff to do. Whether it's playing. What do you call it on the weekends with Kenny?
Pickleball.
Thank you. Couldn't think of it. Sorry about that. Pickleball, or now we're doing the podcast. This is something that we started right now.
Right.
It's just something to keep yourself busy and keep you, for sitting
stimulated.
Around. Absolutely, to be stimulated. And I'd rather do that than sit around and not. But there are days that I have those days where I want to just sit, veg, and I've done that. I think last week, as a matter of fact, was it Sunday?
Can't be busy all the time,
We didn't do anything. We just sat. We were like, no. I think I was in my sweatpants all day, just hanging out and just relaxing. And those days do happen when you're just like, all right, I just need to just crash and just do nothing all day and just watch TV.
It's funny though, because we all have days like that, but sometimes if you have too many days like that, then it's the opposite. You're like, I'm so bored. I'm so bored. Like,
right. I got to get up. I got to do something. Right. Yeah. It's too much. If it gets to an extreme, then you realize, too
much downtime and you need the stimulation.
Right. Yeah. There's got to be the right balance.
And I guess that's the ADHD.
Exactly.
Too, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm also looking up, and it looks like there's 7 different types.
See, I didn't even know that. Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yeah. I was told that I have that they said I had the non-hyperactive when I was younger. So I don't know what that, they say it's usually inattentive, but I'm curious what it is.
Yeah. So type 1 is classic ADD. It's all of the, Lou, what you just mentioned: inattention, distractibility, hyperactivity, impulsivity. How do you say that?
Yeah. Impulsivity. Right.
Disorganization and restlessness. So that's like typical with like the kid, Johnny in class that can't sit still.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's type 2, which is inattentive ADD. So inattention, distractibility, disorganized. Let's look at 3. Type 3 is over-focused. So is that
like
hyper-focused, I would assume, right?
Yeah, over-focus, hyper-focus. Same thing.
Difficulties shifting attention, can get stuck on negative. Here we go.
Yeah.
The negative thought loops.
Yes.
Challenges with flexible thinking, which lead to worry and obsession. Oppositional perception is often negative, and fault finding. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think you might, from what you described, might have a little touch of that, right?
Yeah.
Right. Sounds like it.
I guess the RSD. You know?
Type 4. Oh, now we're getting technical. Temporal lobe ADD.
Oh,
that's me. Kidding. I have
so
no
I guess
idea what
obviously
that
it
is.
can affect different parts of the brain, which makes sense. Temporal lobe ADHD includes inattention, distractibility, challenges with disorganization, difficulties with mood stability, deficits in memory, and irritability.
Yeah.
You're just shaking his head like, yeah, I can check some of those
like
off.
Most of those. I think it's a little bit of each. Maybe I feel like we all fall a little bit of each of those, maybe.
Right. And some might be a little bit more than the other.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But Makes sense. And each person would be different.
Yeah.
You might be heavy on one type, but lighter on another. Type 5 is limbic ADD. Generally increased by activity in the limbic system. This is the prefrontal cortex, cerebellum, and basal ganglia. Oh. So we're getting very technical.
Yeah,
what part of the brain?
The brain.
Oh, what is this? Type 6, ring of fire ADD. What is that?
I don't know. Let's find out.
It's where you talk like Johnny Cash all the time.
I fell into a burning ring of fire.
Yeah. Symptoms of ring of fire ADHD are short attention span, highly distracted due to racing thoughts, sensory sensitivities, hyperverbal, mood instability, conflict-driven behavior, oppositional independent behavior.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. I don't want to cut you off, but I think
it's okay. ADHD.
Something that I think my son has ADHD. His teacher doesn't think so, but I feel like kindergarten is constant simulation. So like it's hard to figure out in kindergarten, because kindergarten they're always they're drawing, they're doing this, they're doing that. Everything's fun. Everything's framed in a way to be fun. So I don't think it's probably hard to figure out that. But at home, like he's definitely like, I just pick up on all this stuff. So I think he might, but
you're not saying anything in front of him though, right? You're not like, I think you have this.
No.
Right.
But like my mom's like, no, he definitely doesn't because he does so well in school and but
that doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, with all of these different types, it seems like it can still be. It's almost like ADHD, like autism, has a spectrum with the different types.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
They're gonna probably
and it could be
it
could be a positive and it could be a negative. Hopefully, in time, you'll be more of a strength for you than it would be something that is
that ring of fire one doesn't sound like a good one.
No.
You read them off already?
That was number 6. The very last one is anxious,
right?
ADD, inattention, disorganized, anxious and nervous, social anxieties. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But
that was the last one. But there is, I guess, somewhat of a spectrum for ADHD too.
So, I mean, I think that they're probably going to label. Well, you know what? The similarity, the other similarity of autism and ADHD is that they're both neurodivergent. Mm-hmm. It's both neurodivergent. It's brain development. It all has to do with brain development. So,
right.
So, it could be a spectrum of, and again, as time goes on, they figure things more out, figure more stuff out about it. There's just going to be more info coming out. So maybe there might be, because there's all different, like all those things that you mentioned, like I could pick a couple out of each one,
Yeah. I was just going to say that before when you were reading them off, and I think if maybe the whole idea is getting on, is being able to know how to steer it to make it work for you more in a positive way than a negative way. You know what I mean? Because usually when you find out, you've been kind of doing things everybody notices things. But then when you just go with it, I guess, and allow it to be a strength rather than a weakness.
The funny thing is they say it's not. Someone said that there's a psychiatrist said that wasn't. It's not genetic because we were, because I was concerned about Chase, my son. And I said, and I think Tara called up like a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist was like, well, it's not really genetic because she said I have it, but like I don't know. Pretty sure my father had it, but again, before he dropped out of school in like second grade or third grade or something like that. Really young, yeah, like our fourth grade which is unheard of, today. He had a lot of problems in school. He was constantly he was having problems in school, and the teachers back then were assholes.
It was a lot different. It was a lot different,
especially
for sure.
Yeah. He was born in the 50s, so teachers back then weren't as nice. That's when in Catholic schools they used to actually be able to beat the kids.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of my friends went to parochial school. And I went to public school. Yeah. I did go to Hebrew school for a little while when I was younger, and then. But I was real little, and then later on,
did they? No.
Huh? No, it was different. No, I don't remember anything bad. I think I was probably the bad one.
No, it's just the Catholics that beat the kids up.
No. But I did know a lot of crazy, like some of the centers that were around that were part of the Catholic Church, and that you would go to them, like you could play. It didn't matter who you were; you could always play and hang out. So it didn't. Because Lou's Jewish, you can't hang out with the Catholic kids. No, it didn't work like that. It didn't matter. Everybody just hung out and did whatever. You know what I mean? So, but you met a lot of crazy nuns that were pretty rough, scary for sure. So, anyway, this was a really good episode. Yeah. It was because not for nothing. I think everybody has a touch of all of this. It's not just us. I think everybody does. I just think they don't know it. If they don't know it, they'll figure it out in time. Hopefully, So,
and everybody deals with it in a different way.
It's true.
So, anyway, thank you both.
Yes,
Kenny, we miss you. We'll see you on the next two podcasts, and I will say, love, peace, and hair grease, and live long and prosper,
and go vegan.
Go vegan. Anything you want to say, honey? Artsy crafty stuff. Anything that did?
Thank you for having me last minute.
Awesome. Thank you so much, honey, for being on with us. Appreciate it. I love you.
Yes. And don't forget, we are on we're now available on all platforms. All platforms. So if you're listening to us and you don't listen to us on Buzzsprouts, or you don't listening to us on Google Podcast, you can alternate too.
You can go to Apple as well, because we're on there too. And we're on Instagram and Facebook.
And Facebook. So if you want to message us, please do. We always enjoy messages, comments, all that stuff.
And ideas, for sure. Yes. So, alrighty. You guys.
Thank you all.
Talk to you later.